Pleasure to me all at last, and now we're back at it again with more pet animals. I can't exactly put in a subtitle word for this. I'll just simply say that it's a 10 episode long period where I talk about 10 different kinds of pet animals. So I've already talked a bit about dogs last time, and for number 2731, we're now going to be talking about the cat. Now the cat is part of the feline group of animals, commonly associated with others such as the snow leopard, lion, serval, jaguar, and tiger. But as we know, cats are, much like the dog, the more domesticated variety of such animals, and they're also a lot smaller in stature. In a similar way as to we could say that the lion and the wolf are the wild, larger sized animals in the kingdom, the dog and the cat, however, are the more domesticated variety, oftentimes living with humans because they are both seen as some of the most common forms of pets imaginable. Such other cases, of course, will include birds, fish, mouses, tarantulas, and others. But down the line, we will eventually talk about them and many others just as well. Anyways, the cats, much like the dog, have coexisted with humans for thousands of years, and possibly even beyond that. But the biggest thing about the cats that so many people have gotten to know about is just the idea that cats were seen as protectors, servants to the gods of ancient Egypt. In fact, there's a lot of stories going around, like King Tutankhamun of ancient Egypt, and especially his famous 1930s tomb discovery and the so-called mummy curse that was associated with it. There were, in fact, some remains of cats being buried with their owners, being mummified in a way, much like their owners themselves were. A unique means to preserve the body for the afterlife. Of course, there were other animals that would also commonly serve up as their own mummification status, alongside the pharaohs and other high rulers of ancient Egypt back in the day. But since the cats were seen as major protectors of these high lords or pharaohs and whatnot, they were in fact some of the most common to be found when they were dug up alongside the mummies in their tombs. But fast forward thousands of years to today, a time in which that we have since had a number of cats. While I can't really say for sure that I am that familiar with cats, because not once have I had them as pets, but I have gotten to know a bunch of them over the years. Not too many people seem to be familiar with cat breeds in the same regard as dog breeds, but I still at least know a few. There's the Maine Coon, the Turkish Shorthair, and there's even one that's a bit hard to pronounce. But the thing is, having a little knowledge about cats is at least a lot better than what the norm of people would actually tend to do, in which that they don't really remember it at all, or have knowledge of it by any means. Any other way you look at it though, with the diets of cats and dogs, they're very much different from each other. Sometimes they might have similar sort of things out there like dry and wet food, but the main thing about between dogs and cats is that a lot of times the dogs will go for such things like chicken or beef, and cats are oftentimes known for fish like tuna and salmon. And while most of the time they can have canned fish or even dried fish, the thing is that it's always a good idea to consult with professionals on what the best food choices are regarding cat ownership or dog ownership by any means. Because sometimes different breeds of cats or dogs will have different requirements and or likability due to administrative knowledge coming from the professionals themselves, or beforehand when they've gone to school for it. In any other case though, cats, like dogs, have their own sense and their own place in humanity. And apart from the ancient Egyptian status and their popularity, the historical factor really goes up high when you start to talk about cats and their popularity on the internet. In fact, there was a good amount of videos over the years on YouTube that were essentially the original driving force to create YouTube into the big community-driven network that it is today, where we share millions of videos, texts, and other things. But when you really think about it, whether it's historical or it's an arbitrary listing of things, we got to know about the cats back then, but to see them today, they're still a rather popular symbol of human and pet relationships. And while some people might have their preferences or their beliefs on whether cats or dogs are better for you in any ways, there's also the kind of people that might have hatred over such breeds, such species of animals, mostly because they either give them allergies or because they have other beliefs that they sometimes don't want to share. And I will say that even my own brother has had an unfortunate accident because of pet ownership over the years. Yeah, so that's a lot to take in, but because I have 8 more days left with this sort of stuff, and I've also gotten 8 other ideas based on pet animals worth talking about, we're just going to keep on going here. So stay tuned for tomorrow for number 2732, in which I talk about another pet related animal, and I'll see you guys then.